very abusive of the United States for many years. Canada's been very tough on oil, on energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of things in, and we allow everything to come in. It's been a one-way street. If they want to play the game, I don't mind. We can play the game all they want.
We didn't ask for this, but we will not back down.
It makes my blood boil. I never thought I would live to see this. Free trade was controversial at the time in the 1980s, but it worked for both countries. It worked for all of North America. And to see that demolished at the stroke of a pen is heartbreaking and infuriating.
The impact, if not the goals of this tariff war, is to drive our dollar down to the point where Canada is a fire sale. If our dollar goes as low as 50 cents, it drags on, which some economists are saying could happen. Americans could easily come in and buy up our companies, buy up our stuff, buy up our mines, buy things. I think we have to, as a country, say, guess what? We're not going to sell to you.
What power do we have? The average person, what power do you have? The power of the purse, as they say, the bottom line. Your dollars, where your family is spending. Sheila says, I've canceled all travel to the States or through American airspace. Wow. Says, and I've notified American companies why. I'm purchasing Canadian-made products by Canadian-owned companies through Canadian suppliers. Well, I'm inspired by this. Paused or not, even the threat of tariffs should be a wake-up call for every Canadian.
Trump has a tendency to declare war and then back down and declare victory. I still think the threats are on the table and very realistic, but this wasn't really about border security. This is a little bit of him, I think, instilling some chaos because that's the way he does business. In a lot of cases, it's been actually easier to trade with the United States and with other Canadian provinces, and that's actually quite ridiculous. Occurred like that for the last 40 years. That needs to be overcome.
The U.S. market is worth 70% of the global capitalization right now. So if you took all the publicly traded businesses in the world, you measured them by where their head office is located, the United States is 70. Canada is 3. How does that relate to mums and dads saving money? If you have been investing in the United States and you've had a lot of gains on your portfolio, maybe now is the time to look at that portfolio and say, maybe I can take a little bit of that gain off the table and diversify into other areas of the economy.
Young adults, like 18 to 30-year-olds, don't drink.
People are just doing other things.
There's research that shows drinking's down like 50+%.
They want to experience life and they want to remember the night.
More and more people are talking about quality of life.
We have more outlets. We have online counseling, better medication to combat anxiety. I mean, anxiety. When you're hungover, when you're addicted to drugs, your anxiety is through the roof.
Dexter Martin says, my son just turned 18 and has no ambition for drugs and alcohol. When Jordan Tutu was in our studio, the first Inuk player in NHL history. He's had his battles with alcoholism. Jordan talks about how growing up, every picture with my dad in the picture, my dad's holding a drink.
And it used to be when dad comes home, bad day at work, he went straight to that bottle. Now it's like, maybe I should check in and do 30 minutes online counseling.
Yeah.
Maybe I should meditate. Maybe I should do breathing exercises.
I enjoy a social drink, real talk, but I don't want my kids to think that every single time you're feeling stressed or every single time you're celebrating that there's alcohol involved.
Looking at Trump getting elected, the US dollar is very strong right now. First implication for us was currency. We purchase in USD, we sell in Canadian. The currency exchange really matters. So we had to act very quickly. I went to my manufacturers and I actually got a currency discount. I'm paying you in USD. This is helping you. It's worth more in pesos to you.
You're using Canadian steel, you're manufacturing in Canada, but 90% of your home sales are into the United States. If steel is heavily tariffed, the price of your goods goes up by a quarter.
The problem is that we actually don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so we have to think about when we are trying to sleep, right? 95 different things at a time that could hit us out of left field.
This whole thing, this whole dust up has been a bit of a wake-up call, including for consumers, right?
Absolutely. And I think that brands in general are headed into more of a less is more era. We had to stockpile during COVID, and it was time now to innovate some new products. We're looking at that differently now.
We don't pledge allegiance to the billionaires. We don't pledge allegiance to Elon Musk.
The second that Elon Musk was granted access to the Treasury records, he who controls the information holds all the power. There's actually 6 between 19 and 24-year-olds been granted access to all of that data. Dismantling controls. We're taking over information. If Kash Patel is confirmed as head of the FBI, just watch him start dismantling and arresting journalists. Once that happens, you know what he's doing is exactly what Putin did.
The White House says don't worry about it. A government spokesperson say this access is read-only. They will not have access to sensitive data. Nobody should worry.
Every single American's data has been compromised. Period. End of story.
This is a relay project. Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jesperson.
Well, we're grateful to have you with us on a very special edition of the show. It just so happens to be Valentine's Day. Very happy Valentine's Day to the intrepid producer of this show, John Hicks. In just a moment, a love story, so to speak, with our home city, the city of Edmonton. We're partnering today with our friends at Edify magazine and the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce to shine a light on some of the movers, the shakers, the edifiers in our community, the folks that are going above and beyond to create opportunities not just for themselves, but for many others whose business ventures and whose personal ambition is shaping and contributing to the community around them. A remarkable conversation in store as the episode extends. We're going to get into some of the news headlines of the day. And of course, you know, we're going to wrap today as we do the final episode of every week, courtesy of our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park, with a fiery edition of the Flamethrower. We've got a big stack today. We've curated it as best we can, but some of these we simply could not cut. So it's going to be a little longer today. I hope you're in for it. That's coming up in the next 60 minutes or so. This episode of Real Talk is happening with the support of Alberta's top online real estate school. That's Relo, where better real estate training starts. You can find them online at relo.ca. That's RELO.ca. Real estate learning online for the bold and ambitious. Wherever you are at in your career, they can help you find the next level. I want to give out a special message to the one person. There's somebody listening today. I can feel it. I can feel that there's somebody listening to the podcast or watching us on YouTube absolutely sick of their job. They're not appreciated at their job. They have limited earning potential. The salary's capped. They haven't seen a raise in years. And they're seeing their friends, they're seeing their neighbors working in real estate, creating opportunity for themselves. Sky's the limit. At Relo, they're all about value. You can learn more about all the courses they offer online. And don't forget, when you're signing up, I want you to use the promo code Ryan100. That's all one word, Ryan100. When you're looking at the Alberta residential real estate bundle, the Alberta commercial real estate bundle, that'll save $100 off each of them. Take the first step forward in your future career in real estate today by visiting Relo.ca. Well, what a pleasure it is to welcome to the program two award winners, two big deals, and a third rounding us out with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. Laura Kinghorn joining us. Thank you for making time for us today. You and I are joined by Sina, Zere, and Jorgia Moore, two Edifier Award winners. Congratulations to both of you.
Thank you.
It was awesome to see both of you honored at the Edmonton Chamber Ball, which is easily Edmonton's premier business event. And we had so much fun, all those folks with golden tickets near the end of January at this sold-out event. But honoring Edifier Award winners in a number of different categories: trailblazer, community builder, emerging leader, arts leader, retail maverick, and citizen champion. This is the first time that the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce has partnered with Edify Edmonton, with Edify magazine on this. Why was it a priority for the Chamber, Laura? Why did it make sense?
Yeah, it made a lot of sense, Ryan, and thanks for acknowledging that. We have such a strong partnership with our friends at Edify. We believe in the work that they're doing. We believe in print media, and we believe in whatever our members
like a place where people gather and find community.
Yes, exactly. And I think what was happening in terms of maybe like a hair salon offering waxing, a hair salon, like their primary service offering are like haircuts and that sort of thing. So waxing was sort of relegated to like a back room. So the customer, even though they're at the hair salon, are actually not getting that hair salon experience. They're getting kind of a secondhand experience at the back of the store. And I was like, well, I want that hair salon experience for a wax customer.
Had you been in the business for quite some time before you launched this specific version of it?
No, actually, I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I thought that looked like a really hard, lonely life.
It kind of is.
Yeah. And I've proved myself right. But I just felt like this need was so pressing, and I wanted to be the one to deliver it to Edmonton.
Yeah, that's amazing. Jorgia Moore, welcome to the show. It's so nice to have you here. A lot of people are going to hear this on the podcast, so we'll describe your shirt for them. You're rocking this T-shirt, a beautiful design. Danya, Ukraine's Kitchen. You're the founder of Danya's Ukraine Kitchen, and you've earned honors. Congratulations, the Edifier Award as the emerging leader. Tell us what this Ukrainian Kitchen's all about for people that might not know.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Danya Ukraine's Kitchen kind of started as a crisis response to the ongoing war in Ukraine that's coming up on 3 years now this month. So we started kind of providing necessities to newcomers who were arriving here in Edmonton. But apparently Edmontonians and Albertans really like pierogies.
They do.
So when they would drop off donations, they would tell the newcomers, you guys should try to cook pierogies for us. Like, we love them. We really, really want this. So the newcomers kind of came to us and said, we should try this. No harm, no foul. And kind of similar to you, I never saw myself in food service. But when we launched back in 2023 at Cook County Saloon, the newcomers had never seen a cowboy before, and they were cooking in this kitchen at 8 a.m. on a Saturday. Just everyone really loved the story. They loved the concept of sharing a modern day culture. So the way pierogies, shifted over the last 100 years from the first immigration. And then just like the food was really, really good. We were welcomed in by a First Nation chef. So the whole story just was really beautiful, and it went viral, and we did a lot of sales. We did $30,000 in 30 hours, which if you do the math is like lots of pierogies. We were like, how are we going to do this? We don't even have a kitchen.
Wow.
So now today we have our own cafe space, our own commercial kitchen that's huge. We ship out to grocery stores. We ship out to restaurants. We serve lunch daily, Monday through Saturday. We do tons of catering downtown. I joke that we've catered for like every office building down here. And so just that shift from just like trying something once to actually having our own space, it's been a wild ride.
Do I understand correctly that you were not working in hospitality at all before this?
Like, I served when I was in school.
Okay, but you weren't like running a restaurant.
No, not at all.
Wow, so you're figuring out the business on a number of fronts. You're figuring out the viability and like kind of the financial management of. You're figuring out staffing. You're dealing with folks, with employees, with women that are coming over from the most dire circumstance. Like their entire lives have been uprooted. How are you managing all of this?
A lot of learning. I joke that it's like jumping off a cliff and figuring out how to use the parachute on the way down. But definitely like a ton of support from the community, asking questions, trying new things. We've also been really lucky, like our employees are such hard workers. It's like absolutely incredible, the work ethic of Ukrainian newcomers. And I'm sure a lot of businesses in Edmonton have felt that. But they work hard, we work hard, and we try new things. And
is it possible to describe the average employee? Like, I guess the one thing they have in common is that they're coming to Canada from Ukraine, and obviously there's a lot going on in their lives. But you must have people from so many different circumstances.
Yeah, so the nice thing about them having that in common is when it is a tough day back home, they don't have to pretend like they're all going through similar circumstances. They're able to support each other. But only one of the cooks in our kitchen actually worked at a restaurant in Ukraine. Everyone else had different backgrounds and just kind of cooked at home. But they're all really hard workers. During Christmas, I kept saying, like we were sold out of everything. Every single day we were sold out. And I was like, if you guys need to take a day off, like, you know, I'm really like, I think it's okay. Like, people will be okay without these at Christmas. And they were like, no, you don't understand. Like, women from Ukraine, we love to work. We are excited to come in on Saturday. Like, that's what we want to do. And they're like, we really like being here. For some of them, it provides a good distraction to what's going on.
Yeah.
And they tell us that it's almost like family. The one employee said she has more friends in Canada than she did in Ukraine. So
really?
Yeah.
We've got on our Real Talk live chat powered by Park Power. Tracy's watching us live on YouTube right now. Says, I keep getting Danya's recommended to me. She says it's an absolute must do. So this is good. People are loving it. People are connecting with it. And probably because there's kind of a multifaceted angle to supporting the business, right? Mm-hmm. The food's impeccable. The food's fantastic. Everybody knows that. But then also I think people probably feel, Canadians probably feel, as you're looking around, you see a global, just an absolute tragedy happening in Ukraine, and you kind of go, what can I do to help? Even if it's something small, what can I do?
Yeah, absolutely. And starting next week, we're launching a couple things. So obviously it's coming up on 3 years. So we're offering a donation option for any caterings that are booked. So just we always are aware of what's happening. And then the busier we are, the more people we get to employ. And obviously when you don't plan, like even when you plan to immigrate and leave a country, it's really, really tough. But when you don't plan to do that, you don't know things like English. And so there's tons of barriers to employment.
Yeah.
So we're lucky that we're able to offer remove some of those barriers, and our goal is to just keep growing so that we have more pierogies on every corner and more employees.
That's not a bad thing. Well, you're on to something. I'm looking at DanyaUkraine.ca. We'll link to both of these businesses in the show notes on YouTube and the podcast. And I mean, the photos are just amazing, and the sense of community here is really just incredible. Are you like, when did you know that you were onto something? At what point were you going, oh yeah, this is taking off?
I actually remember the first day when I was watching, me and one of the other co-founders were watching the orders go up and up and up. And then other co-founder, Janice, my mom, she's like, how are orders coming in? And we were like, good. We were kind of like short because we didn't want her to say, you have to turn it off. This is too many pierogies. But in that moment, we were like, oh my goodness, like this is a lot. And we still have a lot to figure out. But I think like right at the beginning, we saw that there's a gap. Like you can find good pizza everywhere. You can find good donaires everywhere. But where do you find good pierogies, right?
Yeah.
So that was like kind of the first moment. And then just recently, like last month, being in our new cafe space, kind of like looking around at full tables, and having a space that's our own. We were very temporary before, was kind of like, oh, like we're in this for kind of the long haul. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. It's so exciting. And it's been neat to see the name establish itself, of Danya Ukraine's Kitchen establish itself in the Metro Edmonton region, in the capital city, relatively quickly, which has been really impressive to watch. People can check out your website at buffwaxspot.com. By the way, the design, I love your design. Your branding is very strong.
Thank you, Ryan.
When you've made a real effort, and I think probably one of the reasons why you've been recognized by Edify and with an Edifier Award as a retail maverick is your business appears to be about so much more than just the service, or so much more than just the waxing, the way that you staff it, the way that you reach out to your clientele, your message of inclusivity. Where does that come from? Take us into that.
Yeah, I think waxing, so interestingly enough, of all the aesthetic services, waxing is the most popular. It's the most requested. So it tops nails, it tops hair, it tops makeup.
Really?
It is, yeah. It is the most requested service. And that's why it's not difficult to find. What's difficult to find is a good wax experience. But waxing is a very vulnerable experience for people because they're coming in with hair on their body that they're not happy with. And usually some part of them is going to be naked on a bed in front of a stranger that they don't know. So the bar is set really low, unfortunately, for a good experience for a customer. But a different way of looking at that is that the opportunity to wow that client or customer is also really high.
Sure.
So long as you recognize these concerns, barriers, anxiety that a client has.
If they've only seen Steve Carell in 40-Year-Old Virgin getting his chest hair ripped out.
Oh my God.
They're coming in with a preconceived notion.
I would be rich if I had, like, for every time I've heard the the reference to that movie. Yeah. So, and then of course being Black, my own experience being a customer at like getting waxed or other personal services where I've had to bare myself and not feeling certain if the esthetician had experience working with skin like mine, if they were judging me. And part of, I think, that feeling of I'm not sure is it comes down to like your branding and marketing. So it's like whatever people see of your brand, that's what they're going to interpret as like, would I fit in here? Is this a place for me? And so a brand that doesn't do that, that isn't actually intentional about showing different bodies, different skin tones, is in a way saying you are not welcome here, even if that's not the intent of the brand, because you're just not seeing yourself reflected in that business in any way. So it was really important for me, with my own lived experience as well, that this is a place where we are head on addressing a lot of these concerns, like cellulite. If you're transitioning, that was a big one for us a few years ago. So we took our service menu and we got rid of female and male services because we said that doesn't actually really matter. So things like that.
That's interesting. Sort of like pulling the gender reference out of the services. I'm looking at it right now on your website, and so that's kind of I guess maybe that's kind of an evolution of, in particular, your service or waxing or aesthetics or whatever you might call the bigger industry, but probably more in general as well. Businesses, regardless of what they offer or the industry or the space that they're in, recognizing where society's at, recognizing where the voids are, recognizing where people are feeling underserved, and then pivoting.
Exactly. And the beauty industry runs parallel to changing opinions and thoughts about like cultural norms, expectations around inclusivity, diversity, equity. We're really hand in hand, and like as a business in the beauty industry, it's really important that we are on top of, I don't want to call them trends, they're not trends, but we are on top of these shifting ways of thinking, especially if they continue to promote our message of inclusivity and diversity and open, welcoming, safe, non-judgmental space for people.
It's amazing, Laura, watching you. You sit here and you're like listening to these two entrepreneurs, and you're the chamber representative on the table, and you've just got this huge smile on your face. I think there's something about hearing a business leader, whether they're at startup phase or at an award-winning phase or wherever they're at, talk about what drives their business decisions and why they've built their business the way they do.
Yeah, I'm so proud, can I just say? And obviously we're so proud of all of our membership, but going through this process of thousands of nominations and then sitting here hearing the story is so different than reading it. So both Sina and obviously Jorgia, they spoke about this gap in what the community needed, and they just took that chance and they ran with it, and it really paid off. At the Chamber, we're always just looking to celebrate people who are making our city better, and that's what it is. It's about that spirit, that entrepreneurship, but also about that risk, and the community is going to have your back when you take that chance. So yeah, I can't stop the smile, Ryan. Sorry.
That's great. No,
that's I think a proud mom.
Yeah, but that's very cool, and it's I think it's probably worth mentioning that both of our award winners that are sitting here with us today are also members of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. You're nodding, Jorgia. Was that something that was? Your business is relatively recently founded. Was that an early first step that you took as a business? Why was a chamber membership? Why did that make sense to you?
I don't even know when I first started going to the chamber. I think it was coffee with the chamber.
That's where we met.
Yeah. So I think also like a lot of, obviously I'm an emerging leader, so kind of early in my career, a lot of that was taken away with COVID. And so it was kind of like a good next step for me to kind of be there. Great way to meet a lot of people, to network. I mean, I'm no stranger to the chamber. I think Claire knows I'm there a lot.
Why is that though? What do you take out of it?
I love the people. I love like the opportunities to learn new things. I like taking advantage of I even said from the beginning, something, since I don't have the retail experience, is asking questions, is trying new things. Have you found, like, have there been some sort of like either formal or informal mentorship relationships that have been established there? Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely. And just knowing, like I think you said, knowing that you have people that are there to support you and that are kind of in your corner rooting for you, and the more that you grow and the more success that you have definitely trickles down into them.
Huh.
I think that's like a big part of it as well.
There's an entire side conversation happening in our live chat right now, powered by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider, and just everybody's talking about pierogies. Ben Demon Hunter says there's nothing like them. He says homemade pierogies are absolutely spectacular. I love this from Vamp Fashions, who said, I asked my Polish friend for their recipe, and she said, recipe? There is no recipe. You make pierogies. Are there differing schools of thought when you get all these? They're not. I don't say babas, right? That would be misusing. The babas are more like the grandmas, right?
Yeah. So actually, funny thing you mentioned that Donya means.
I need to clarify, Laura. Just give me. I need the goods here.
Donya means daughter.
Oh, cool.
So the reason why we did that is when the newcomers came here, they're like, why does everything here say Baba? Like, we're not all Babas. We're kind of young and cool and hip, right? So that's why there's obviously a lot of reasons why Donya was picked, but a big reason is that we're modern and youthful and fun. And when you come in our kitchen, there won't just be Babas working. There's women of all ages.
Yeah, that's so great.
Yeah, and for everyone that's chatting, I'm just gonna go ahead. If you come in and say that you heard about us here, I'll give you 10% off.
Whoa, that is seizing the opportunity right there. I love that.
You said you have to try it. I agree.
100%. Where is the actual brick and mortar? Because it's one thing to be operating out of, for people that don't know, people will be listening, they don't know what Cook County is. It's like the country, it's an institution of life, right? I mean, in my mind, I always say to people, it's like if Edmonton had a Coyote Ugly, it would be Cook County. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
And I don't think we've ever had a bad time there. But it's one thing for them to make a kitchen available and for you to be sort of like staffing up, leveling up, figuring out the logistics of how you're going to offer catering or delivery or what have you. Opening up a brick and mortar restaurant in a highly competitive industry where profit margins are razor thin and people fail all the time is a whole.
Thanks, Ryan.
But it's true. It's so true. Like, and I've only known you for a couple of months. I had the honor of being up on stage with you at the Chamber Ball, and just seeing the respect you have from your peers and from people in Edmonton and people that are watching what you're doing in hospitality. It's great. You've obviously tapped into something, but you and I both know. I mean, real talk.
I know.
We see restaurants failing all the time. So it's an entire other leap of faith for you to go with a brick and mortar location.
Yeah, so this is kind of our fourth kitchen, but like you said, all the other ones were very temporary. They weren't our own.
Yeah.
So we're now on, it's 12153 Fort Road, so just kind of behind the Expo Center off of Wayne Gretzky. So the cool part about it is we're able to get a large square footage. It's still very central to kind of hop on to all our delivery routes.
Yeah.
But then the cafe there, it's, close enough to a lot of people. There's nothing else really around there as well. So a lot of the workers there come around. But yeah, I welcome you to come visit us there.
Oh,
or
you don't
of
have
course,
to convince me.
We are in grocery stores as well, because I do know that for you folks out in the south side, we're a little far.
Yeah.
Touch.
Well, that's a whole other thing, though, getting your food into grocery stores.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that work in food services, and getting a product into a store can be a game changer, right? From barely scraping by to flush for a business. Who's doing that? Who's pounding the pavement there? Is that you?
Me and my mom, Janice. Yeah, it's the two of us. And then also my girls, like I have an inventory manager she was in school to be a lawyer in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Nothing slides past her. Every single thing. But I remember the first time Brad Smoliak was mentoring us, and he's like, well, obviously you're going to have to go and get your barcode. And I'm like looking at him. I'm like, sorry, what? So I had to get my first barcode. We have I think 15 now. But yeah, definitely huge learning curve.
That's a great name to drop, by the way. For anybody in Edmonton, Brad Smoliak is when you're talking food and Ukrainian food, that's somebody who knows what he's talking about.
So also the girls don't let him pinch pierogies.
Why is that?
Because they respect him so much. He's an amazing cook. They loved being mentored by him, but he tried and they looked at him, they said, no good.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's an art.
A moment of humility for Mr. Smoliak.
He's allowed to help with everything else, but no pinching.
Okay, that's amazing. Okay, so we know where Georgia's team is coming from, the employees, the community members that are employed at Donya Ukraine's Kitchen. We know that they're coming from Ukraine. They're coming to Canada. Sina, how about you with regards to the staff members, the team members, the applicants that want to work there? What do you think is driving people there? Is it the industry itself? Is it they've wanted to work in aesthetics? They want to work in waxing? Or do you think there's something? Are people coming to you and letting you know that the culture of your business, the approach you're taking to it, the mind, the premise upon which it is built, is that attracting a certain type of person?
I would say so, and I've really seen that shift in the last few years. I think there's two things. Somebody who wants to work at Buff really loves waxing, and you love waxing or you don't. It really is kind of binary. It's not like facials where you might like doing facials. Like you like it, you like to do waxing, or you don't. So that's great. That weeds out a lot of applicants actually. But the second thing I am hearing a lot of, I really love your messaging around DEI. That's really important to me. That applicant themselves may identify with certain communities, or they may have someone close to them who identifies with that community. And so this is something near and dear to their hearts. And once they're on the team, they also see how that extends to the way we treat our clients, those who have special needs, or those who are, like transitioning, or those who have certain pronouns that they want to use, and that we're really respectful of that. We make sure to write notes saying this is their pronoun, so that if they see another wax tech the next time, they know in advance. So we really try our best to just respect people where they're at and meet them where we're at. So yes, that. Yeah.
Have you been paying attention to the news headlines and kind of this? Oh, your eyes just okay. You know exactly what I'm going to ask.
I'm going to give you my double chin look.
Well, yeah. Well, we've been talking. we've been talking. We endeavor to have real conversations, the type of stuff that real people talk about when they're hanging out having coffee, like we are. But there's been a lot of talk of organizations that are moving away from DEI, including the University of Alberta, which has introduced its own version of DEI. But there's some big brands that are moving away from it, big American retailers. There's some that are standing steadfast, like Costco has said, we're not doing anything with our DEI. Yeah. But many, like Ford and like big American or global brands are moving away from it. What are your thoughts on that?
It's heartbreaking. I mean, just 4 years ago, we saw the movement rooted in the U.S., but really spread around the world, around, Black Lives Matter, and that really opened up struggles that different minority groups face. And it seemed like we had made this giant step forward, only for, in the last few weeks to have all of this work dissolved. It's heartbreaking. I was really sad that week that was announced, because of course with our proximity to the US, some of that sentiment is going to trickle up north. And so for me, I think it really enforced to me the importance of the work that we do, and that this is mission driven. We're not doing it for the money because it sounds good. It's really important. It's been important for Buff from day one, even before it was popular to do it. Actually, we kind of put our necks out a little bit in promoting our messaging and the kind of images we were sharing. It was a little out there at the time in 2016, 2017, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But with everything that's going on, we're doubling down. We are doubling down on our messaging and saying we always will remain a safe space. I am actually trying to reach out even more to communities. There's a Chamber of Commerce, the LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. So I want to do some work with them to just figure out what can we do? How can we be an ally and continue to show that we are an ally?
Is there ever a trade-off? On the flip side, have you ever had a customer or potential customer leave because of it? Yeah,
yes,
really?
Absolutely. It can be something as, call it mild as why do you ask for pronouns? This is annoying. There's only two genders. To outright, homophobic comments. Unfortunately we get it, but it makes our job really easy because they just don't get to come back.
That's right.
Yeah.
Not your customer.
No.
How is the chamber navigating waters? It's interesting because of the membership, there's the chamber's membership is remarkable, and you've got I think we would actually probably as a chamber member qualify as a micro business. There's small business, medium-sized business. It's always funny to me when I'm talking to fellow entrepreneurs and they go, "Oh, we're a medium-sized business." I'm like, "How many employees do you have?" They're like 80. I'm like, "Geez,
you're huge."
That's wild, right? And then of course there's chamber members that have hundreds or probably thousands of employees. When it comes to like putting policy together, when it comes to reaching out, new member outreach, which is a big part of what you do, how does the chamber find like kind of a collective voice, or how does the chamber in putting policy together, reaching out to people, speaking on behalf of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce? You know, the provincial budget's going to be coming out. We know the Edmonton Chamber will have like a position on that. Can you take us into the process of understanding and how to best represent all the members?
Yeah, I think our stance is always what is good for business is what we're always going to stand for, but we also have strong morals and we care about our city, we care about Edmontonians, and we care about Canadians. I'm going to pivot a bit, Ryan, because looking right now at the landscape and I'm just going to say the elephant in the room, tariffs, but everything that's coming up, our stance has to be what's good for business long term. So we can't just pivot and move and change something immediately. We have to think of what is going to sustain our business community and our entrepreneurs for generations to come. And everything we do is in that heartbeat of what's best for our membership, but also the entire business community. We represent a large portion of it, but our advocacy work is for everyone. So the entire community benefits from it, regardless of whether or not they're a true member of us. The process, though, was really led by our motivation to make sure that we have success long term.
Laura brings up tariffs, and thanks a lot.
Apologies.
Because I thought that Johnny and I would have like 30 minutes away from talking about tariffs for once this week. But we took a look on the lighter side and talked about people killing cougars with cubs the other day, just for a break from tariff. Oh yeah, it's just been nothing but light lifting this week. But I mean, in light of the inspirational elements of this conversation and the celebratory elements, there's also like the realities of running a business, which are very difficult. Does the tariff talk or Canada's looming what feels like a trade war with the United States, is that something that would impact like you as a business owner? Is that something you're keeping an eye on? Is that impacting you maybe already?
Not yet, but it could if that drives up the prices for folks, then that's going to potentially mean fewer visits at Buff or extending the time between visits, maybe not adding on as many wax services. So yeah, that it could from the client side. And then from the supply side, I actually have a plan to talk to some of my suppliers to see if they are thinking that there might be any price increases coming down the pipe. So yeah, I'm concerned.
Can I pick your brain on the supply side, and when you're putting stock on your shelves and all that the type of stuff, people can check out your website, and you've got all kinds of different ways like people can shop online, and you offer all these different products. Obviously, some of the stuff is branded with your brand, which actually looks perfect. But when you're sourcing this stuff out, there's been a big movement. Just in the last 6 weeks or so, since all this tariff talk, everyone's buy Canadian, support Canadian, support local. Is that something you've built your business on from the very beginning, or sometimes for a lot of people, financially it's not viable. They can't. Sometimes they got to bring stuff in from other places.
Yeah, I've always tried to focus on Canadian brands first, and then supplement with U.S. brands or European brands if I don't have enough Canadian brands to fill the shelves. But in the last few weeks, I am definitely going to be moving to a 100% Canadian stocked shelf. I think in the last few years as well, the indie beauty scene in Canada has really improved. So there are way more offerings than there have been in the past. And like really nice offerings, like upscale, like good enough to put on a retail shelf, not just sort of like farmers market type vibes, which are beautiful. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
I'm looking right now at the papaya and neroli brightening deodorant.
Thank you.
Sounds is that as good as it sounds?
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Buff Experts.
What's neroli? Sorry, I have no idea.
Neroli, it's a type of orange.
Okay.
So it's like an
So
orange
it's like
blossom.
a citrus deodorant.
Yeah, it's a very happy scent.
Wow.
But yeah, Buff Experts is our in-house line actually. So I created the Buff Experts line of products because when I started Buff, there wasn't really a dedicated line of products for post-wax care. So with all the time I had, I was like, I should start a cosmetics
With all your
business.
spare time?
All my spare time.
Oh, yeah. You were probably
right?
sitting around just trying to figure out what to do. You
Wasted nights sleeping, Ryan. I was like, who does that?
If I know anything about entrepreneurs, it's just all this. It's what do you do with all your free time? But this is like when we're talking to Jorgia about she's got this successful catering business, everything's happening, and then they decide to open brick and mortar. You putting like spa, what do you call them? Not spa, beauty products. Is that what you call them?
Products.
Like that's probably a pretty competitive space, I have to imagine. You're not guaranteed to succeed in that. Just because you have a waxing shop doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do this and nail this properly, right?
Well, I think I had a bit of an advantage because I know what our clients need. So this is a very specific line of body care products. So very, very targeted. And to be honest, I have a captive audience. I have all my clients at the store. So it was kind of like, I know they're going to buy it because that's all that's there.
You're like, let me show you your next best investment.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
We're hanging out with Sina, Zere. She's the winner of the Edifier Award presented by Edify magazine in partnership with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce as the retail maverick. Jorgia Moore's hanging out with us, the emerging leader. You have emerged, by the way. You are no longer emerging. You are the emerged leader and the Edifier Award winner there with Donya's Ukraine Kitchen, and hanging out with Laura Kinghorn as well, Vice President at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. I want to let you know, for Real Talkers at home, and we'll put this in the show notes, you can check out all of the Edifiers at edifyedmonton.com. They've done a beautiful job lining this up, and I'll just show you my screen right now. Building Up Edmonton. They say it's literally in the magazine's name, Edify. And it's how the people winning these awards and being recognized here have lived their lives. And we do want to give a shout out to your colleagues, the Trailblazer, Taylor Soroka, who's doing just absolutely incredible work with the Jasper Place Wellness Center. We're going to be talking about that more, Real Talkers, in the months to come, what they're doing to address people experiencing homelessness and really filling an incredible void in healthcare and social services in the Metro Edmonton region. Kim Deneen, recognized as a community builder. Todd Crawshaw, if you're a patron of the arts in the province of Alberta, you know Todd's name. A worthy recipient of the Arts Leader Award, and then citizen champion Zachary Weeks, who's just a force of nature. Just absolutely love Zachary and his advocacy for people with disabilities. And we should also mention, of course, the Business Leader of the Year, Chris LaChance, the restaurateur behind Century Hospitality Group, and what a beautiful job you guys did recognizing him as well at the Chamber Ball. People can check out edifyedmonton.com to learn a little bit more. When we come back from a quick pause, give you all a chance to wet your whistles, I want to ask you just about your advice for entrepreneurs out there, maybe experienced business people that might be in a bit of a rut, that are maybe seeing a bit of a revenue dip, or maybe they're losing a bit of their consumer base. How do you connect with people, the messaging, the mindset moving forward? Of course, we're proud to partner with Edify and the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce on this, and you can check out the show notes for links to both of their website. Before we go any further, I just want to remind you, Real Talkers, with events like Laura just referenced, beyond our borders, putting Canada's economy in jeopardy, we've got to make the right choices here at home. Check this out, like investing in world-class research and learning that fuels Alberta's prosperity. We can't afford to underfund academic staff at the University of Alberta because we can't afford to lose the teachers, the researchers, and the students that we need to power Alberta's future. I want to invite you to go to supportthespark.ca and help keep our future strong. Show your support for academic staff at the U.A. because underfunding academic staff puts frontline teaching and research at risk. This is a message from the Association of Academic Staff at the University of Alberta. We've got an exciting opportunity coming up relatively soon, and this presented by the Alberta Women's Health Foundation. I want you to circle your calendars. They've got the Luminaries Luncheon coming up on Friday, March 7th. This one is guaranteed to sell out. You can check it out online under the events link at albertawomen'shealthfoundation.org. This is an opportunity to engage with pipeline to possibility researchers, mix and mingle with 5 different early and mid-career women's health researchers that'll be showcasing their projects and the anticipated impacts on women's health. This is your chance to join the first ever Alberta Women's Health Foundation Luminaries Luncheon presented by the Scotiabank Women Initiative. My good friend Linda Steele is going to be hosting this one, and it's going to be an absolutely fantastic opportunity to advance women's health research in Alberta and beyond. There's also going to be a keynote address by Joanna Griffiths. She's the founder and CEO of Nix Wear. She's going to be sharing the Nix Way, building a brand with purpose. You can find more information, get your tickets today at albertawomen'shealthfoundation.org.
At California Closets, they are proudly locally owned and locally operating out of their beautiful showrooms in two of Alberta's biggest cities, Calgary and Edmonton, but they're doing work across the province and beyond. They are employing Albertans. They are manufacturing their custom closets and storage solutions right here in our province, and of course, contributing to our province's economy. If you're looking at 2025 as the year that you're going to get organized, this is the year that you're going to get your space to a place where you're proud of it and you truly feel at home, you want to start with a free consultation at californiaclosets.ca. When you visit the website, that's where you'll be able to see more of the work that they do, get a sense of how they can work with any space and any budget. Nobody does it like the talented team at California Closets. And a quick note to those of you that right now may be unemployed, underemployed, or simply sick of what you're doing for work. The team at Kubi Renewable Energy is looking for self-starters. They're looking for folks that are inspired by Canada's sustainable energy movement, by people who want to drive change, by helping individuals and businesses take actionable steps toward a carbon-neutral future. Kubi is hiring right now for all 4 of their locations in Calgary, Edmonton, Lethbridge, and Kamloops. You can learn more about those career opportunities and get a free solar quote by visiting their website today. That's kubi.ca. It's really interesting to watch a VP from the Chamber of Commerce watch me talk about business.
Love it.
In these promotional spots, because you're engaged. You're
I love it.
looking at their
Live for
websites.
it.
And there must be something in your role at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. There's got to be something where you have to. You're not showing up for your 9-to-5 job. You truly care about what makes business tick. That's pretty obvious.
I would hope so. I mean, before I worked at the Chamber, I was privileged to operate businesses for 25 years in our city, in different, whether it's franchises or luxury jewelry, as a lot of people know.
We can say the name, right?
Yeah, I worked for a Tiffany company. I actually ran their DI program for Canada.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Laura, this is like the first Valentine's Day in a while she's not helped
I
me
know.
out.
I was there for 10 years. I was privileged to open the store. I know. Look at her shock. That just never gets old. And when someone sees a blue box,
Oh, it's
too,
the best
I know,
brand.
I
It's
know.
the best. It's one of the best
It's
brands.
one of the. You know what? I'm gonna love it forever, and I only have amazing things to say. But yeah,
I have a funny story. So
I can't wait.
When my husband and I got married, he lost his wedding band within a few months, and I was so mad.
Of
'cause
course.
it was
I'm sorry
like
to
a
hear
proper
that.
wedding
It's
band.
a nightmare.
Yeah, and we hadn't yet visited my family, and he didn't have a wedding band. So we were at the airport, and I was so mad, and I said, "Go to the kiosk and get a wedding band, because you cannot not have a wedding band." So he bought it. He lost it in Toronto. We came back, and I was like, "Fine, you don't get a wedding band. That's it. You don't get a wedding band." But then I thought, what if we get a really expensive one? I think he'll be incentivized not to lose it. So we went to Tiffany's.
Good for you.
And does he still have it?
He still has it.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. He there's only 2 spots in the house that it lives at.
Yeah.
And otherwise he's wearing it, and yeah.
Amazing.
I don't talk much about my wedding band, but I will say I can relate. My wife picked this one out, and it's a beauty. I love it. This one right here, and it's it's an investment for sure. And so we get married, and we get married in Costa Rica. It was in March of the year we get married, and then friends of ours are getting married in the Dominican in like June. And so my point being, we've been married for like 3 months. And it's the day before the wedding, and the bride and the bridesmaids are doing their thing, and so all the guys are like in the pool at the swim-up bar, and you know how this goes. And so we're playing a big game of volleyball in the pool, and I like throw up the ball, and I go to like spike it, with my hand, and my hand's wet, and my wedding band goes flying like as far almost like I threw it as far as I could into the far end of this pool at an all-inclusive with like 100 people in the pool and pure chaos, like people blowing whistles, and I don't think there was foam in the pool, but it was you get the idea, right? And so my wife shows up, like they're like done their spa treatment, and they're all like relaxed, you know how it is, and they've all got like their sun hats on, and they're coming to the side of the pool, and they're walking into a situation of pure chaos. And I'm there with like a borrowed pair of goggles, like frantically swimming around in the other end. And everyone's like, "Where's Ryan? Where's Ryan?" Someone goes, "Oh, he's looking for his wedding band." And I'm like, "No." It was just like, what an impression to
Did
make.
you find it?
I found it.
Oh, good.
Is that one?
But if it was a $30 band, from the airport, I wouldn't have been losing. So I would just go get another one. Do you know what I mean? But this, I'm like, if I
There's
lose this
skin in the
one,
game.
she's changing the keys.
Yeah.
She's changing the
I'm
keys.
going to tell you one quick story, and it's about losing rings. So in my time at Tiffany, I returned returned, I think, 5 engagement rings that were lost because they're serialized. So if you've heard of Return a Tiffany, the charms everyone knows.
Sure,
Actually, one of the earrings right now.
I didn't know that was real. I
Okay,
thought that was
here's
just
my quick
a...
story.
Thought it was a gimmick.
Yeah. So back in Manhattan, and this was in the 70s, they actually had this serialized, almost like a Dewey Decimal System program for key tags. So if you lost your keys, it would say, please kindly return to Tiffany Company on 5th Avenue and 57th, and we would return your keys. And it became, I haven't worked there for years, but we. So then they created the jewelry collection of Please Return to Tiffany in honor of this amazing program that they had. So fast forward to, I had this mother and daughter come into the store. They were on vacation in Greece and they found this incredible diamond ring. And they said, this is our local Tiffany store. Can you find the owner? I'm like, I can absolutely try. So I take the ring, I go look it up in the system because there's a microscope. We can look it up. And I'm like, it was purchased in Shanghai. So I said, can I please have the ring and get it back to its owner? I gifted them both Return to Tiffany bracelets to be part of the saga, part of the story. I then had one of my incredible employees draft this beautifully, completely Mandarin transcribed email. The director of the store in Shanghai wrote back in perfect English. So, lessons learned. And she said, I found the purchaser. We contact the person who purchased it. Long story short, we get the ring back to them. They were on their honeymoon in Greece. They did not have insurance and they could not have got the ring back if it wasn't serialized.
Wow.
So anyway, I know that was like a derailment, but it was worth it, wasn't it?
I love it. I'm Ken Case he says I never really take my wedding band off, says, but I did have to replace it because I wore it out. That's love. Wow, that is love.
Good problem.
And I thought that this is Meatball Auditor. I think is onto something here. Maybe not doable. It depends on the ring. He says I bought 3 cheap ones when we got married, and I still have 1 left after 10 years.
Oh my! Whoa, good thing they bought 3.
3 matching ones. It did occur to me at some point to just buy a backup just in case, but it felt like maybe a bit of a waste of money.
Yeah, it's good you found it. I was thinking of that Kim K meme when she lost her and she's in the water.
Yeah,
I wasn't going anywhere until I found it. Put it that way.
That's awesome.
Because my only concern was it was going into like one of the
drains.
grates, like the drains.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then we're in trouble because then Donna says I am so happy to hear this wedding band talk. I didn't think we were going to talk wedding bands today, by the way. But this is the whole point of the Real Talk Roundtable. This is why people tune in on Fridays.
I've only been engaged for a year, so I don't have any stories yet. But
these are helpful tips for you,
Jorgia. Just wait. Donna, in our Real Talk live chat, powered by Park Power, says, my husband lost his wedding band in the ocean in Mexico 37 years ago this May, and we are still together. That from Donna. So there you go.
What a good
I
woman.
thought she was going to say, I still remind him every day.
Well, she just reminded him in the chat right now. He's probably have you come up with like a protocol or a process for when you do take your engagement ring off? Does it always go in the same place, or are you like I have some friends, it stresses me out big time. They'll just leave it on like the side of the sink, or they just leave it on top of the counter.
No, my best friend got me like a jewelry dish right when I got engaged, so it goes there. But I do have to take it off for dance. So if I come straight from work to dance, I have to like leave it in my dance bag, and that just anxiety.
I don't want to assume anything. Is it Ukrainian dance?
Yes, it is.
Amazing. That is a whole nother level of athletic prowess, hey?
Yeah.
It's
the reason I can eat pierogies all the time.
Were you born in Canada?
Yes,
but
I was.
Did your family were you immersed in Ukrainian culture right from the very beginning, like from the outset?
Yeah. I went to like Ukrainian Catholic elementary school, so that's why I can like read and write it. And then I'm actually like 3rd generation Canadian though.
Yeah.
And then I still dance. My brothers dance too, but they didn't stick it out very long, like as long. And then a lot of the newcomers are always surprised when I can like, I'm not by any means fluent, but I can at least, especially in the kitchen, have a conversation.
That's gotta be incredible though. Like I'm trying to, you try to walk miles in the shoes of people. And it's oftentimes very difficult when they've experienced something that you simply can't relate to. The privilege that I've experienced in my life, which is immense, means that I don't understand what it feels like to have the building next to you shelled by rockets, or to have my family members drafted or signing up and volunteering to go fight the Russians, or what. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
these people are coming out of these circumstances unimaginable. Like you said, not even planning to leave.
Yeah.
Now they're on the other side of the world and sort of trying to find a way, keep their chin up, maybe appear to be optimistic in front of their kids, or all the things, the mental health challenges they must, etc. To hear their language spoken in the kitchen from someone who can advocate, someone a local, an Edmontonian that can advocate on their behalf, must be hugely, hugely impactful on them.
Yeah, I think part of it too is that they see how well we preserved the culture here, and that like back then there was struggles with Ukrainians for forever. And so they're like, this is why it's so important for us to also preserve our culture. We see what you guys did here, and like, no matter what Russia says, we are our own culture, and they can never take that away from us. Like, it's just kind of drilling it home. So yeah, I think it's really cool, and it's kind of like crazy for me, like you said, privilege. Having a Canadian passport is like something that we cannot take for granted at all, and I think it's crazy that my family immigrated so long ago and like left similar circumstances, and like that's the reason I'm able to be here today. So it's definitely like just sometimes like very surreal, and I say that they've taught me like a lot to be very grateful and to work hard and to not take anything for granted. Like we've been given this opportunity, like you said. So
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was just going to say, I really resonate with that. And like, I'm really proud of you. My parents were newcomers. They came in 83. There was a big war between Eritrea and Ethiopia. So they were like refugees. And like, I grew up with parents who really did amazing at the end of the day, but had lots of trauma, lots of PTSD. And I think for you to, as a third generation Canadian, still have that empathy and understanding that like, a way to dial down some of that isolation and loneliness is to bring these women together, get them in the kitchen, because food is such a uniting force. It's such a source of comfort. And it's a place where they can all be together, speak their language, maybe talk about what they've gone through, because nobody else understands. And, you can't be all things to everybody. You're not a therapist, but in a way you're wearing all of these hats and just checking off all these boxes for them. That is so incredibly fulfilling and important. I really think you're building a legacy for yourself. And again, as like a third generation Canadian, I just find that really amazing. You're not taking being Canadian for granted. You still can wear their shoes and understand where they're coming from.
Thank you so much.
That's beautifully said.
Yes. I was like bringing tears to my eyes. It's so sweet. I think it's also crazy, like you said, your parents left war too. Like, why are we still having this in 2025? Like, it shouldn't be happening. And I think,
and that it repeats itself is so sad. Like, like the conflicts have started up again in Ethiopia with the Tigrayans, and Eritrea is getting involved. And it's, my parents just sit there and they're like, we thought we left all this. And it's
Did your parents ever return back to visit, or once they were here, was that like in the context of how it sort of stuck with them, or I guess what a feeling to uproot your entire life and move to a different continent.
Yeah, and I think with the context of war behind you, not even really a choice. You just leave. Like you don't get to say goodbye. You don't get to gather your things. You just have to leave. My mom has been back 1 or 2 times. My dad, no. Unfortunately, Eritrea is in a bit of a dictatorship situation, so it's not like the safest to go back to.
I was there ages ago in the Horn of Africa on a documentary project, as a matter of 2008. So many years ago. But what a fascinating region. But it's just had been torn apart by war. It was so very evident, and the work of NGOs in that area is just incredibly important to this day.
Yeah, it is. And I'm trying not to talk about the Trump administration, but just the dismantling of the U.S.A. agency, and like,
we can talk about it. This audience wants it.
Yeah, it breaks my heart. Like, this is one of the areas of the world that benefits from that sort of assistance. I'm sure the Ukraine as well, and just that would be turned off so cruelly is really hard to listen to.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch. We don't have to get too into it right now, but I've seen people talk about it. I mean, this is for the audience, I think most people know, but Elon Musk is heading that up as basically the senior individual in charge of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiencies, and people have said that the irony is lost on no one that the richest person in the world is dismantling one of the world's biggest human rights and aid organizations. In the name of efficiency, and that's not to suggest that efficiencies cannot be found in these government departments and organizations with massive budgets. But at the same time, when you look at who is deciding on those types of cuts and through which lens they're viewing, I mean, what what determines what is efficient. In foreign aid, for example, in some of the world's poorest regions and most desperate situations, it's not always just bottom line dollars and cents all the time.
No. And I think I read that the U.S.A, whatever it is that the U.S. spends, represents 1% or less than 1% of the U.S.'s annual revenues. I mean, it's so like kind of negligible for this kind of attack.
Did being the daughter of immigrants shape how you approach business, do you think?
Oh yeah, big
how
time.
So?
There's a lot of compassion and empathy for where people are coming from, and a real recognition of the need to be like welcoming for everybody. That's whether there's like language barriers or somebody may feel like visibly they're presenting in a way that I don't know, just like I get it. I mean, even though I'm very Canadian, I was born here, having parents who are newcomers means that I can certainly walk in their shoes a little bit, at least see what it would feel like to be in their shoes. So yeah, definitely.
I think it gives you like, you never know what someone's going through. Like when you say, you know, just understanding that. And so always like understanding that people are doing their best and approach that with kindness, right?
Yeah.
The chamber must, you've got people at all different stages of their business, from startup all the way through to some of the, obviously the institutions of business in Canada. I thought maybe we could wrap our conversation just with some, they don't necessarily have to be pieces of advice, but observations, things to think about. I mean, I think probably the value of community and collaboration is big on this one. I had a chance to, Trudy Callahan, such a dear friend of mine, the publisher of Edify, and we were talking about doing this, and it wasn't lost on her that the three of us were going to be talking on Valentine's Day, and I asked her about that, and she said, I love that you're doing this on Valentine's Day. She says, since way back, we've said that our magazine is a love affair with its city. And she says, this is more than just saying we love Edmonton, it's an affair of the heart. And I just thought that was such a beautiful way for her to summarize sort of like what drives her and her team's approach to what they do in storytelling, credible, fact-checked, long-form storytelling, and they do a wonderful job of it at edifyedmonton.com. But maybe just something to leave the audience with, a message to the entrepreneurs or the would-be entrepreneurs. Johnny's showing one of the features that they have up now. Jan Reimer, they've got a feature on her, the former mayor of Edmonton, who's done amazing work with the Alberta Council of Women's Shelters and others. I mean, the stories go on there. But what might be a thought that you might leave this audience, in particular in the context of your business or what drives, your approach to it?
Yeah, entrepreneurship is hard, but it's also, I think, something that's really quintessentially Canadian. We, as a really small business owner, I'm sometimes surprised by how much I can do in the community by hiring Edmontonians, by supporting various communities and initiatives. So you can have like a really large impact as an entrepreneur within your local community that is so fulfilling beyond the daily grind. And I have really come to appreciate, especially post-COVID, other entrepreneurs who are doing all of the things, opening all the stores, all the services, digital offerings. I mean, if we didn't have them, where would we shop? Home Depot, Walmart, and Costco? Like, that's so sad. So, like, thank God for all of us who are trying something new or putting it on the line, so that we can all live in a city that's really vibrant and interesting and just like fresh.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody. I'm not trying to like keep hammering home the fact that restaurants fail. That I'm not really. I promise, George. I'm
try
not
to be just a restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I just want to say, in the context and in recognition of what you just said, Sina. Like, I was talking to somebody yesterday. Well, it's not my news to share, so I won't get too into it. But a beloved Edmonton restaurant by the name of Bira closed down on the south side of the river in Ritchie Market some time ago. And as I understand it, there's some exciting news coming for that space. But it's not my news to share, so I'm not going to talk about it, I guess, except for what I'm talking about right now. And I am not authorized to share any further details, but I just learned of this last night. And the point I bring it up is because I thought that the team, and I don't know anything about the business, and I don't know anything about the books, and I quite frankly don't know anything about running a brewery or a restaurant or anything. But I do know that it's challenging, and I do know that the team that was there was very astute, very dedicated to what they were doing. And then you look at the fact that they made the decision to close it down. And then you go, gosh, you kind of think like if they can't make it, you know, you kind of look at that, and then you hear news that maybe, hint, hint, maybe somebody might be moving into that space and giving it another go, maybe under a different concept. But you go, oh, thank goodness. Like, thank goodness that there are people, that there are entrepreneurs that are willing to like stick their necks out, take a risk, go out there and try it.
Yeah.
You know? Because otherwise, I mean, you know, you're talking about where people get their you know, Walmart, Costco, Home Depot, but even the restaurant scene, like Edmonton's culinary scene is made more rich, undeniably. And I should mention that Edify has their best restaurants event coming up. You can learn more about that at edifyedmonton.com. But our culture, our culinary scene made more rich by risk takers.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. What advice might you have, or an observation or something to leave the audience with, Jorgia?
Yeah, I think a lot of what we talked about, like collaboration, ask questions. Honestly, Edmonton's a very special community in that people want to help you. They're willing to help you. So, you know, just take the step to ask. I always say I don't think a business like ours would have survived, thrived, or even been created in a different community. So I think that's really, really unique for us. And then also just trying to always find something new. Like you talked a lot about branding. We're trying to like find the season. So I'm dressed Valentine's each day. We have pink pierogies and heart-shaped stuff. But already next week we're moving on to our next sort of event. I don't want to say event. You know what I'm saying. But our next sort of like promotion. So just trying to always find something to engage, you know, new people, and also keep your customers repeating and trying new things and entertained. So
yeah, very well said. Last word to you, Laura.
So I'm going to take the lens of we need to support the risk takers. We have so much happening. Supporting Edmonton-made products right now is a huge campaign for the chamber, so watch for that. You can see more of it on our website. There's a whole toolkit we've created to share the wealth.
Stickers.
Good. Call me personally. I will deliver them, but support the ones that are making it happen. If you want robust communities and a place where people want to live long term, they have to be interesting with character, and the risk takers are creating businesses that do that.
Yeah, so there's the edmontonchamber.com is the great place to kind of get a sense of all of the resources that are available, and people kind of have to take a minute to go through the website, because you're going to find you'll learn more about the advocacy impact, you'll learn more about the events, that type of thing. But let me dig into the Made in Edmonton campaign a little bit. Please. The sticker campaign. I shared it on my Instagram last week, and a lot of people were asking about it. I think because there's a real appetite for something like that. People want to know. They want to be reminded of the value of this. But there's also like a digital toolkit, which is kind of a neat angle of approach.
It is. We have the most incredible communications department, and this was our call to action. This is a moment in time, and we don't know how long it's going to last. So our job right now is to use this pause to make sure that people understand they can shop with intentionality. You can choose something that is made in Edmonton. We have great partnerships with the Alberta Food Processors Association, the AFPA, and choosing that, making it easy. Our community wants to choose the right thing, but it's up to us to make sure that it's visibly easy for you to choose a product where $68 of every 100 that is spent in a local business stays here versus 43 in a national chain. That adds up. That's $25. That adds up. So make it easier for them with a visibility, but go to the website, contact us. We are here to make this easy for our entire community, and especially our membership.
Absolutely. I'll just show edmontonchamber.com one more time. I also want to let you know that Super Chat Ken here, you'll be able to see it on the screen. He's just kicked $5 into our YouTube Super Chat. Amazing. Now that goes directly toward funding our Real Talk beer fridge. I don't know if you knew that. So what that means is that as you exit into our green room here, you can each help yourselves to a cold one on behalf of Super Chat Ken, who's now bought all three of you a beer.
Thank you, Super Chat Ken.
Super Chat Ken says, what great guests, what a positive end to the week. And it kind of makes sense because it is in the name. And the team at Edify in establishing these awards, it is in the name. And Ken and others are feeling compelled because, I mean, Edify, the Edifier Awards, you two, and you, Laura, your work at the Chamber, but you are edifying this community, and not just your customers, but bigger picture. And I say you deserve to be commended. You have been commended with these wonderful awards that are so well deserved. So congratulations again. It's honestly just so wonderful to have you here in studio. I love how this conversation, like, we could just shoot the shit for like 3 hours, but I know everybody's got stuff to do. It's Valentine's Day. Your parking's expired, and I think you have a bunch of Danyas that are waiting for you to show up, Jorgia, because you guys have a big day coming up.
Yeah, we still have some space, but we have rezos. People are taking their loved ones for pink pierogies and heart today and tomorrow, and you can take it home too and cook at home because sometimes the cold, the crowds.
What flavors do you have for your pierogies?
We have like 6 or 7. So obviously they'll love potato and cheddar, potato and caramelized onion, sauerkraut, cottage cheese potato, blueberry.
Blueberry.
Yeah, we also have gluten-free. Over 50% of our menu is gluten-free.
Really?
So when you're talking about being inclusive, that was big for us too.
Yeah.
So
Huh. School me on blueberry pierogies.
They're like breakfast or dessert.
Yeah.
Yeah, really
Do
good.
you still put sour cream on them?
I put vanilla yogurt, but you do put sour cream as well.
Ah.
Yes.
Are there any like wild pierogies that you've considered making that are a little bit out there?
We did a collaboration with Meat Restaurant on White Ave.
Yeah.
We have brisket-filled pierogies.
Wow. Oh, now we're talking.
Wow. Yes. So it was their top-selling feature that they've ever had because it was just a feature menu. So they don't sell that in the restaurant anymore, but we still sell it at our location. Super cool. Amazing. I love collaborating like with that. Kind of like a 2-in-1, and it's just like fun and new. We did Oilers pierogies, which are just colorful, but we have like more ideas. We did chili filled pierogies for the CFR last year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. We like to,
I don't know why I asked you about all these things that I do not have in front of me right now. All I
Next
can think
time I'll
about
bring it.
is brisket-filled pierogies. Ken K, by the way, kicking in 5 into the Super Chat, says he's inspired by Super Chat Ken. Different Ken. So maybe you guys grab 2 beers on your way out. Don't open them on the drive.
Day of the Kens.
Yeah, Day of the Kens. That's Jorgia Moore, recognized by Edify as an Edifier, the emerging leader for 2025 for her amazing work with Ukraine's Kitchen. Sina Zere, who's the founder of Buff Wax Spot, recognized as the 2025 Retail Maverick with the Edifier Awards. And, of course, Laura Kinghorn, just an incredible ambassador, vice president at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, and a longtime champion of business and community. Laura, your smile lights up a room, your perspective, your optimism, I absolutely love it, your advocacy. You can learn more about what Laura and her team do at edmontonchamber.com. To the 3 of you, thanks for hanging out with us today. This has been, honestly, I feel edified. My bucket is overflowing. Thank you for this. And keep up the amazing work.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Next tropical vacation, I'm going to come see you before I travel. I need to get some stuff done.
Oh, we'd be happy to have
we'll
you.
leave my chest. I'm still scarred from 40-year-old virgin. You can find other work. Yeah. Anyway.
Apparently that was unscripted. So it was somebody, the woman who was pulling the strip off was not a waxer, and Steve Carell didn't know that was happening.
Come on.
Yeah. So that reaction was genuine.
Do you think was it real or was it prop hair? Do you think that was real?
It was real. No, it was real.
So he was really getting waxed in that moment?
Yeah. By somebody who was not a waxer. And I'll just say a waxer would never wax hair at that length.
Okay.
Because you're going to peel them off the ceiling if you're doing that.
What would you do? You'd shave it first and then wax it?
Not shave it. It would have to be trimmed. Yeah, to about half.
Okay. See, we get to the stuff that really matters here on Real Talk. We've all just learned something in the final 5 seconds. Actually, probably most of the women watching already knew, but us dudes, we had no idea about the Steve Carell scene. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Way to go, Sina. You can learn more about everything that all of the Edifiers are doing and the incredible impact on the community again by checking out edifyedmonton.com. We want to thank our friends at Edify and our friends at the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce for making this conversation possible. Hey, are your pierogies in Friesen Brothers? No. Do you know?
An Italian Center shop.
No, don't say all the other ones you're at. But I'm just joking. That's a joke, by the way.
Local Quality Market and Co-op, but we would like to be in Friesen Brothers.
We got to get you in Friesen Brothers. Let's make that happen. We got to get you in Friesen Brothers because they're all about community. They're all about local. Our friends at Friesen Brothers in 2025 are celebrating 70 years in business. And of course, we're talking about community. This is a family-owned business that has represented and celebrated exactly that for that entire period of time. 70 years and still going strong. Not just still going strong, growing. Opening 2 remarkable locations in the past while, both in the Metro Edmonton region, in Rabbit Hill, and of course, Glenora on the West End. That's where our family goes. We're going to be talking to you through the year of all of the basically celebrations that they're going to be holding. But I do want to remind you of a couple quick things through the year. Number one, the first of every month, Friesen Brothers knocking 15% off your grocery purchases of $75 or more. That's the first of every month at all of their locations. And make sure you check out the Family Essentials flyer. All this talk about budgets and families stretching every dollar as far as it can go. That's us. That's our family, probably just like yours. We love the Family Essentials flyer. Quality food for low prices every day, including recipe ideas. You can find it on their website or in store
at Friesen Brothers. We are proud partners with UCAN Youth Services here at Real Talk, and I wanted to put a couple of things on your radar coming up in the month of March. Number one, they're going to be honoring Kyle Dubé. Kyle contributed just an incredible, the contributions that Kyle made to community are tough to talk about on a show. If you knew him, you know. He joined us on Real Talk just last year, talking about his relentless approach and what drove his advocacy on behalf of young adults that are experiencing challenges either in their education or their employment journey. But on March 3rd of this last year, 2024, sadly, we lost our friend, Kyle Dubé. Coming up on the second weeks of March, this year, in particular on the 11th, we're going to be remembering him and celebrating his legacy. We'll be doing that here on Real Talk as well. They're going to be continuing Kyle's work and in funding it in part with their UCAN Comedy Nights, the 10th through the 12th of March, the 17th through the 19th as well. You can learn more, book a table. Join me the night of March 17th at one of those comedy nights by checking out ucancomedy.com. Complete Care Restoration for more than 25 years has been helping families, the residences, and business owners get back on their feet after disaster strikes. Restoring properties and rebuilding peace of mind is what they do. If your family, home, if your business has experienced fire, flood, sewer backup, mold, asbestos, smoke damage, you name it, don't let it get worse. Don't leave it. Get in touch with the team at Complete Care Restoration today. They'll work directly with your insurance company. Take that off your plate and make sure that you can get back in business or back to living the way you want to be without that interruption. You can find them online at completecarerestoration.ca. How did your investments do in 2024? Our friends at North Road Investment Council want to put a couple of things in front of you here. In particular, the Canadian stock market, looking at those returns as measured by the TSX Composite Index, returned over 21%. That's fantastic in 2024. How did the Canadian portion, the equity portfolio, do in your personal investments? Do you even know how it did? Is it on your radar? If you're not sure, our friends at North Road are making their 2024 year-in review client webinar available on their YouTube channel. This is free. 100% free. You can just check out their YouTube page, link to it from their website. That's northroadic.com. You can see that YouTube link there right in the corner, and you'll be able to tap into these resources. Make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel so you can get notified when excellent educational content gets posted. Again, you can find our friends at North Road Investment Council online at northroadic.com. Pretty inspiring stuff from those Edifier Award winners. Hey, it's amazing.
It's always like
hearing. I think people that are. The model that Danya has built, welcoming these newcomers coming from a war-torn region and finding not just an opportunity for employment, but also an opportunity to gather together in community and find those social supports at the same time. Just absolutely amazing stuff.
Yeah, I loved it from all our panelists today, if I might say.
Yeah.
Are you excited for the long weekend? You like that little extra day off next week?
Extra day. Well, I'm thinking it's kind of strange because we're looking at this, and Real Talk will be off on the Monday. We'll be back on the Tuesday with I think is going to be a fiery interview.
Oh yeah, Paul.
I want to put this on people's radar. Dr. Paul Parks, who was the president of the Alberta Medical Association up until recently, and is still an ER physician practicing in Southern Alberta. He's making the trip up, and he's going to join us in studio on Tuesday to talk about this alleged scandal, basically, that's plaguing the Daniel Smith UCP government right now. You may have seen the Premier was pressed on that in Washington, D.C. yesterday by reporters as well. It's a story that's not going away. We talked about it in depth earlier this week. You can find that. In particular, the highlight is really resonating on our YouTube channel. We had Carrie Tate in, the journalist from the Globe and Mail who broke this story, and she helped us out. And Johnny, you helped us out as well. If you scroll down on our YouTube channel to the highlights, the title is Alleged Alberta Health Services Scandal Explained. And you've boiled it down to kind of a 7-minute explainer. And we did an even shorter version. We did a 2-minute explainer for folks that want to truly understand what this is all about. But I think Dr. Paul Parks, I know that he's going to have a very unique and informed perspective on this when he joins us on Tuesday of next week.
Yeah.
And also, do I say unshackled like, I don't want to pump him up too much, but he's the past president of the Alberta Medical Association. So I wonder if he can maybe, I mean, he always was very candid on the show. He always said what he thought. He was not afraid. I remember he'd come in here and throw bombs like an hour before his meeting with the health minister. So he was never intimidated. But I sometimes think once people have left office, they're maybe a little bit even more empowered to speak and say what they really want to say. You know what I mean?
I like how you're setting the table. Hopefully, maybe he's a little off the leash now. But,
we'll see.
But likely, he's going to be the Paul Parks we all know and love. He's very intelligent, very well-spoken, and he's measured. When he makes a point about how, there may be corruption or doctors don't want to come to Alberta because it's one of the hardest places to get along when you've got government meddling in policy and everything. He comes back with, I've also tried to work with Danielle Smith. We've had amazing conversations. We've made steps forward.
Yeah.
But he obviously, right now, if you're watching him on social media and his interviews, he has a lot to say about how things shouldn't be like this in Alberta. We can fix this, and we've made. I mean, he was talking. I heard him this morning actually talking about how 10 to 15 years ago it was a lot better. He's like, from the things I've seen inside, it is very, very bad. I mean, think about, there was a story of that guy who died from cancer 10 weeks after he got a diagnosis because he couldn't get in and get more tests to find out where exactly these tumors were and how he could treat it. I mean, that's someone who had immediate danger. Think of the people who have medium or low danger, but still want to find out things about their health. They have no way to find out.
There's people that are waiting like 18 months for MRIs. There's people that are waiting 12, 18 months for joint replacement surgeries. That, I think, number one, that's why healthcare stories resonate like this, in particular when there's alleged like scandal, nepotism, preferential treatment, donor access to, et cetera, public funds and the like, is because healthcare is very personal for people.
We all know someone who's waiting.
Right. And we all know somebody who's waiting. And in the worst case scenario, like the one you've outlined, people for obvious reasons get all fired up. I see some of you in the chat here basically saying, like, I saw Bunny Slippers in the chat who basically said heads are going to roll on this one. This scandal. Political careers are definitely going to be over for some. I was in my men's league basketball game last night, and after, we go for a beer, and the boys are going like, so where do you think this is going? What do you think's happening with this story? I don't know, because we don't have all the facts yet. We don't know. The question right now is the RCMP going to investigate? The question right now is how far up the chain does this go? Is the premier insulated from this one adequately for her own political survival, or could there be a whistleblower? Or could there be facts that are undeniably connecting the premier to this? We understand how politics works. Like, people have talked about this story, and it's alleged that the premier's former chief of staff, Marshall Smith, had some involvement in what might be characterized as interference and pressuring, for example, the former CEO of Alberta Health Services or the board to decide on certain things or go with certain proposals, go with certain companies or groups, eschew or say no to other proposals, to sign or to not sign something. Now, what's convenient in this circumstance is that the Premier's Chief of Staff is no longer the Premier's Chief of Staff. So that was one thing I said to the boys after the game last night to keep an eye on, is that's already, from a political survival standpoint, that's a convenient one. The former Chief of Staff is exactly that, the former Chief of Staff. So you wonder who might fall on the sword there. Maybe it's him. Maybe that works in the Premier's favor. And then, of course, you wonder about the health minister. But there will always be layers of when you start talking about, people go, well, Alison Redford, the Sky Palace, and the flight manifests and forced to resign. People are comparing this. Could this be a similar type of scandal? Could this alleged scandal blow that one out of the water? Or is this much ado about nothing? I doubt the latter. But there's always, typically, from a political leader's standpoint, somebody that can stand in the way, somebody that can take the fire. And that's kind of the way that politics works. There's a lot of people that either are fired, that are moved as part of a cabinet shuffle, that resign, that may not actually be the one that's entirely or 100% responsible for certain decisions. But that's the way it goes. That's the way that politics works. So I, just like you, Real Talkers, am keeping an eye on this story. There's rumblings that there will be more to come out. Obviously, people are going to wonder about what might an investigation turn up, and can the investigation be trusted, right? Premier says she's keeping a close eye, cooperating with the investigation, wants the results of the investigation delivered directly to her desk.
Well, they're going
There's
to.
thousands of Albertans that are saying, well, not if it's an RCMP investigation, but thousands of Albertans are saying that doesn't cut the mustard. We're not satisfied with that. That should be something that's out of the Premier's hands. So we'll see as the story develops. But I would also recognize, and this is not necessarily a good thing, and we can be guilty of this from time to time too, but people's memories are short. The news cycle moves fast. We're trying to keep folks on track and remember that there's other things going on. You need to focus on the other things. Our coverage of this controversial cougar kill, this cougar hunt the other day, we wanted to touch on that. We wanted to touch on the soccer coach that has allegedly, a lot of allegedlys right now, the soccer coach that has allegedly stolen up to $50,000 from his 9 and 10-year-old players. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to stick on the stories around Alberta Health Services. What about coal mining in the Rockies, right? What about tariffs and trade? What about the Liberal leadership race? What about Pierre Poilievre's policies and proposals heading into a federal election this year? There's a lot to talk about. We haven't even mentioned municipal elections that are coming up this fall. There's a mayoral candidate in Edmonton. I don't know him too well. I don't know much about him, but to his credit, he's been reaching out to us saying, when are you having me on the show? When can I come on the show? When are you going to treat me? If it says you had Tim Cartmel on, Amarjeet Sohi's on, when do I get to come on? And I basically wrote back as respectfully as I could and said, buddy, absolutely nobody is paying attention to that right now. No offense.
Too many other things.
No offense, but nobody gives a shit about a municipal election in October right now based on everything else that's happening.
100%. And this is another reason I'm just going to, promote it again. Go to Spotify because our polls now, like if you don't click on the poll because you're like, I already saw the show, the poll isn't always about the topic that the show was on. We're trying to see how you feel about other things we're talking about for future shows. So when you're on Spotify, you got the HD video, you've got comments in there. We answer every comment now. We try to answer every comment. But also hit that poll because that gives us ideas on how you're feeling for future episodes.
We do our best to respond to every comment, but we can't possibly.
Jeez,
I'm trying to
on YouTube. It's crazy.
Well,
it's impossible.
And it's amazing. And this is such a good problem to have, a wonderful problem to have. And I want to thank everybody for that. But I'm trying to load up our TikTok here because we've had just an absolutely wild response to
our Carney short. Yeah.
What was the Mark Carney? It was the Carney's 2K kicks.
Shoes.
Yeah, is that it? So Mark Carney's 2K shoes, and I think the comments on that are in the hundreds and absolutely remarkable. But I just want to thank everybody that engages in that. I wanted to take. We do have the Flamethrower coming up, which is and it's a pretty unbelievable. I mean, there's a lot of them to get to this time around, but. We got an email from an audience member, an amazing audience member, Mark B. in SLC. He tunes in from Salt Lake City, Utah. This could be a flamethrower, but I kind of want to read it in my normal voice. And he says, so you want to become the 51st state. This is from a born and raised Albertan who's now living and raising his family in the beautiful state of Utah. And he wrote this in after we talked to economist Todd Hirsch. And Todd outlined, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, so don't blow a gasket, everybody, but Todd, through his lens as an economist, argued that if Canada were to join the U.S. as the 51st state, we'd be more powerful than maybe Donald Trump even realizes. In fact, we could sway the midterm elections. We could carry the House and the Senate. We could influence maybe as a big blue state, and I'm open to different interpretations of that. Email us anytime to talk@ryanjesperson.com. But Todd argues that Donald Trump may not know exactly what he's biting off with this whole 51st state business.
If he really wanted Canada as the 51st state, we'd actually be quite a powerful state. Population-wise, we would be the largest state. We would likely be a deep blue state. Why don't we join in time for the 2026 midterm elections, get all of our electoral votes and our senators and everything in place, and just enough to flip the Senate and the House of Representatives back to blue, and then vote to leave. And then lots of other people say, well, Donald Trump doesn't want all of Canada. He only wants Alberta. Or he would never make us a state. He just is going to make us a territory. Reasonable arguments, but why does Donald Trump keep using the word state? If he really just wanted Alberta, he could have said, well, we're just going to come in. We're going to take Alberta as a territory.
Jay Draw says, if only malicious compliance was an option. If they don't need anything of ours, then they shouldn't get anything of ours. But we still want and accept what they have and produce. That's a good point. You have to imagine there'd be natural resources across the country that the Americans would be interested in. None of this has to do with sort of a kumbaya come together. This is about the United States trying to protect its empire into the next 100 years, right?
You know, maybe this is the argument that Canada and Greenland, for that matter, maybe we're not making well enough to say, hey, look, Donald, you don't need to actually take us on as a state. Let's work more closely together. We are happy to sell you those resources. Now, I would say there's a caveat around fresh water, because that's a really emotional one. But when it comes to oil, when it comes to our base metals, when it comes to our uranium and potash and timber resources, have all you want. You're going to have to pay for it, of course. We will sell it to you. But you can achieve that security in resources by working with us. You don't have to take us on as a state. No one wants that.
So that's Todd Hirsch. You can watch the full episode. It was just this past week, a few days ago. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can check that out. You can watch it in HD on Spotify or, of course, on our YouTube channel. So Mark writes in from Salt Lake City, Utah. He says, Jespo, Johnny, I've been thinking about what I might say to my fellow Real Talkers who may be interested in becoming part of the U.S. As a born and bred Albertan who moved to the States in 2006, I have a little insight. Mark says, so first of all, income tax is about the same here federally as it was when I lived in Alberta, while the Utah state tax is a little bit less. Visible state tax here, a little bit less than the 5% GST. It's around like 3.7%, although that can vary based on the municipality as they tack on a little bit as well. He says you would get fewer holidays here in the U.S. as there's no August long weekend. There's no November 11th stat or Easter holidays from work either. In fact, he says there's no legal requirement to pay employees for days off or to provide benefits of any kind. He says most employers do, of course, but I have a number of family and friends who, if they don't work, they don't get paid. He says that takes us to a common benefit, which is health insurance. Donald Trump has said that Canadians would have better health coverage if Canada were to roll over into the U.S. Mark says, my employer is a large state organization. Currently, we have above average benefits where they pay $25,000 in premiums just for my insurance. He says, this counts as part of my compensation, even though I don't see any of that money. He says, I pay my part, which brings the total to around $30,000 just for the premiums. Says then you have co-pays, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs before insurance even kicks in. And insurance companies can and do often delay or deny coverage or treatment. Just ask Luigi, says Jespo, not Mark. And getting a primary care physician is just as rough here as in Canada. Oftentimes you're seen by a physician's assistant, not a doctor. Says, now there are some really good things about where I live. We have all 4 seasons, but it's not too hot in the summer. Definitely not too cold in the winter. I'm lucky to have mountains right in our backyard. He's writing in from Salt Lake City. Says we have college football and a new NHL team. He says, but I'm still go Oilers forever. He says, and of course the NBA, the Utah Jazz. Life here in Salt Lake is very similar to life in Edmonton. Houses are ridiculously expensive. Traffic can be bad, but that's no different than Edmonton or Calgary. Lots of good food. I'll get this. He didn't know who was on the show today. He says, though a distinct lack of Ukrainian food. He says, although we're lucky to have a taco cart right down the street. He says, it's definitely not all sunshine and roses, but it's decent. Mark says, if my kids decide to move back to Canada, I'll go with them. But they seem settled here. He says, I may still retire in Canada one day, but probably BC as opposed to Alberta. Canada's got a lot going for it. I will always be a very proud Canadian. That will never change. I just happen to be living here for a while. That from Mark B in SLC.
Thank you, Mark. Great email.
Yeah, good stuff. I did load up here as well, by the way, our TikTok. This was Carney's 2K
800
picks.
comments.
Dude, 90,000 views, 800 comments. We're not gonna read all the comments, but this was earlier this week. We had some fun with this. If this is the first episode you're catching this week, Pierre Poilievre put out a tweet ripping Mark Carney for wearing these shoes, allegedly $2,000, though I know there's been some pushback, some fact-checking on whether or not
were they the actual shoes,
actually
or
are.
were they?
Well, so this is, you know the thumb, what do you call the thing on the back, the boot pull? Some boots have where you can pull the boot on back by the heel.
I love
and
those.
people have pointed out that the Xenia boots, The Italian brand Zegna.
Have them or don't?
The Zegna boots do not have the pulls, and Carney's boots do have them.
There you go.
But I would say, I mean, I was really getting nerdy on this. It was like CSI Real Talk, and I was like zooming in on Carney's boots and looking at the tread of the boots and trying to see if they were the same. At the end of the day, for purposes of debate, let's just assume they are the $2,000 boots, and you saw it. You can find our short on YouTube. You can watch that episode. I mean, we titled an entire episode around it. I don't give a shit about $2,000 shoes, and I also don't care that Pierre Poilievre's Canada Goose parka is $2,000. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But here's some of what Real Talkers had to say on TikTok. Make sure you follow us at Real Talk RJ. Kurz says Mark Carney paid for his shoes while we paid for Pierre's jacket. Anti-Yogi says the same thing. The difference is that Mark Carney paid for his shoes. I paid for Pierre's jacket. Billy Hill, 29 on TikTok says, is anybody getting sick of Poilievre's tactics? What a joke. That's the thing I'm saying. I'm saying that I think that people want Pierre Poilievre to quit with the populist stuff, get on the policy stuff, start acting prime ministerial.
But
it
works, Ryan. You just said you went down a rabbit hole. You're zooming in. It's a distraction. It's a great play in a chess game is what it is.
This is a hilarious handle. The comment is Mark Carney was and is Trudeau's advisor, and we are here because of them. When it comes to inflation, that from user 101-737-413-7878. Thank you, user.
Wow.
CJ says the hypocrisy is outstanding. Aurelius says those are $2,000 shoes. Who's paying y'all? Why is everybody so mad at Poilievre? Poilievre wasn't in power over the last 9 years. And then Nanamankan says, well, neither was Mark Carney. Right? Urban Sutter says there's a big difference between $2,000 shoes, $2,000 jacket. The jacket will last for years. The shoes might last for 1 year. I mean, come on. We're splitting hairs here. This is ridiculous. And then Jason Bonnell, getting us focused, says they are not the same boots. Bailey 48 says Poilievre for prime minister. We don't need Trudeau 2.0. And Spiteful Pixie says, honestly, I think politicians should be making $80,000 a year. That way they fully understand the impact of their decisions. That from Spiteful Pixie. I would argue I think politicians need to be making more. I think that we need to draw better people from more diverse backgrounds into politics.
I like
the
that.
People, the Mark Carneys of the world, Spiteful Pixie, don't care if you're paying them $80,000 or $280,000 because they are so wealthy. And I'll include Pierre Poilievre in this as well.
He's a millionaire.
Well, Poilievre qualified for his pension, not his fault, but he qualified for his pension right around his 30th birthday.
Yeah.
I think a little bit before that. Poilievre is not in want of dough. He makes decent salary. He owns all these everybody knows that about Pierre Poilievre. And there are many, 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 many other examples of liberals, NDP, and conservative politicians that are so, and many of them have earned their money. I'm not saying that they're on the take. I'm not saying that their funds or their wealth is illicit. I'm just saying their salary for being in politics is inconsequential to them. Whereas if you raise the floor on what we're paying our politicians, you're going to get people that might not otherwise consider a career in politics because they're grinding it out. Their paycheck every 2 weeks is what their family is relying on.
Yeah.
Those people can consider and entertain the idea of a career in politics. You'll get more diversity in
100%.
politics. The rich people, the elites, can already afford to go into politics. A lot of them will donate their entire salaries, right?
I would like to see less millionaires and billionaires in leadership. And I get that, sometimes wealth and accumulation of property, it shows that you've been successful in life. You're smart. I get that. But at the same time, especially with Pierre, he likes to throw the fire but doesn't like the smoke. This is a guy, estimates on Forbes is over $25 million he's worth. Never had a real job. He made all that money in politics and property. That kind of doesn't sit well with me when you're trying to talk to the common man and say you're the common man. I'm like, man, you don't know anything about that. You don't know about a 9 to 5. You don't know about taking the garbage out. You don't know about any of this stuff.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff, that's the perspective we need in politics. We need, and I understand the spirit of Spiteful Pixie's comment because she wants to have politicians that, as she says, that fully understand the effects or the impacts of their decisions. And how do you argue with that?
I love that line. And I'm not ragging on Pierre. I'm sure Carney, Trudeau, these guys are all millionaires. They all don't have, they're all out of touch. Let's get some people who are in touch. I'm not saying, make poor people leadership, but it'd be nice to see some people who aren't just ingrained in the fabric of
Wait, what did you just Is that's getting cut out?
I mean, and I'm not just talking about here. I'm talking about everywhere. Even in the States, you've got people saying, rallying for the common man, but you've got billionaires running the economy. You've got Elon Musk, you've got Amazon, you've got Zuckerberg, you've got all these people ingrained in the fabric of the government now. And it just makes no sense to me that the people who are voting for these people are just, they're so far away from each other on the financial spectrum.
Yeah, for sure. Trevor Compton's watching us live on Facebook this morning. What's up, Trevor? Says, what I take to task, the issue with me is even if politicians do, and this is his opinion, he says if politicians do a shitty job, and he says, like Jason Kenney, he says, okay. He says they get pensions for life, and they're basically not even paying taxes. I mean, that's not necessarily 100% accurate, but he says, there's politicians like Kenney getting 2 pensions, federal and provincial. That from Trevor. I don't know the reality of Jason Kenney's pensions.
I forgot about that.
Can't fact check that, but there's politicians that are going to make multiple. I mean, the political pensions are a big deal. Like if you're elected, I think it's 6 years. If you're a federal politician elected for 6 years, so that's like basically like one election cycle plus. I mean, depending on how it goes, if you have minority government, you can have an election in 2 years. But basically, if you survive through 2 elections, this is what the Conservatives were honing in on, what Pierre Poilievre was honing in on with sellout Singh, with Jagmeet Singh, saying he's wanting, he's propping up the Liberal government, the minority government, just long enough to qualify for his pension. That was what they were wanting to pin on.
What
on
are
Jagmeet.
The numbers though? What do they get, and how, like for the rest of their life,
well, it would depend
on
how many years, and it would depend on the salaries at the time, and like there's a lot that goes into it. But to qualify for a full, and I'll call it this, a gold-plated pension. I'm preparing myself for my own future career in politics. But to qualify for a gold-plated pension, 6 years in a job isn't that long for a pretty plum pension, right? It's pretty solid. It's pretty good. But at the same time, hey, let me stand by what I said earlier, and that is we want to attract good people into politics, and I don't think the secret to that is pulling the benefits away. No. I think, it takes an investment to improve the political landscape. I know that a lot of you probably don't believe that it's possible, and I appreciate your cynicism as well, because I think sometimes you look at the political machine and you'd have a good argument to make that it feels broken sometimes.
Yeah, and I liked your comment. I think it was in the short that, you don't want your politicians worrying about their bills. You want them paid well, but at the same time, I mean, everybody we're talking about for leadership roles are millionaires. So it's really funny when people throw bombs and say Carney's rich or Pierre's rich or Trudeau has family. They all are millionaires. They just eliminate that insult because they're all in the same playing field.
Yeah. Ken's fact-checking and referencing. This was changes. What was it? Ken, help me out. I think these changes were made like more than a decade ago in Alberta. But he says, just for facts, no Alberta MLAs or a premier gets a pension. They receive 13% in lieu and a 3.5% RSP matching maximum. So there's benefits, but it all works out. I mean, there's housing allowances. There's all kinds of things.
Okay.
Alberta Girl says, Ryan, how can a little guy even get elected without a party? No money, no seat.
True.
I mean, it's very difficult to get elected without the machine.
Extremely.
Right? And we're going to see an interesting, and we'll be talking more about this. Hey, look at this here. I'm eating my own words. I said nobody gives a shit about the municipal elections. Here we are talking about it 5 minutes later. But we will be talking more about this as the fall municipal elections approach in our home province of Alberta, and the impact that these new political parties will have. You'll have great candidates that are making a go of it as independents. And then you're going to have these new parties that are going to have fundraising, branding, marketing, billboards,
waving the flags.
And we'll see how that plays out. I think it'll probably be, and this is one of the safest things I'll say all week, probably more difficult to get elected as an independent unless you're an incumbent. There is value to the name recognition. There is that incumbent advantage.
Sure.
But much more difficult to get elected as an independent.
100%. And before you hit that flamethrower,
I'm not going yet.
Oh, okay. I wanted to say have a good weekend, and we haven't even talked about it, but there's an incredible sporting event that's been going on. Canada, USA, Finland, Sweden.
What do you think of it?
I don't want to get into it because it'll be too long, but I think the NHL, the production, everything, I take it all back. Amazon Prime sucks. No, but seriously, it's been, I mean, you saw that Canada game.
The Four Nations
absolute
Cup.
nail
Sweden
biter.
pushing Canada to
Last
OT.
night, USA making quick work of Finland. And I mean, I don't have any love for the Kachuk brothers, but it's absolutely incredible seeing them on a line and seeing the connection they have. It's like, it's not like watching the Sedins or something back in the day, like twins, but it's just, this is high caliber sports production. It is absolutely amazing. And on Saturday, Canada, the USA,
it's going to be great.
Insane.
I will say this, I sort of haven't had, I found myself
being not necessarily 100% excited about the Four Nations face-off, and I don't want to be a hater.
No, it's kind of
but it's just
pushed together.
There's no Russia, there's no Czechia, there's no Slovakia,
no
there's
Germany.
There's no
the best
Germany.
player in the league, Leon isn't playing.
There's no Switzerland. Their program's been coming up. There's no Latvia. There's no so part of me is kind of like,
This is a tester, though, right? They're seeing how
Connor McDavid has never had a chance to play best on best, and now we're getting to, and he's not the only one, but when you get to see a power play with Cale Makar, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby, and Sam Reinhart, it's bonkers. And so I will allow myself to fall in love with that angle on
that
it.
first goal they scored. Go back and watch it if you haven't been watching the Four Nations, because you are kind of like people who are like, this is thrown together. It's going to be like the All-Star game. It is not. Last night, the USA-Finland game was way more physical than Canada.
Oh, it sure was.
Oh, it was absolute. But the first game, the first goal on a power play, Connor McDavid spin around pass to Sidney Crosby. He puts it through the legs of the defender, and McKinnon scores. I almost peed my pants. I was like, you're never going to see this again.
I will divulge something. I am in a Four Nations pool.
You always are.
And I have both the Tkachuk brothers. 5 points last night. So I'm just saying.
They're insane together.
Vamp says Finland doesn't have much chance. Canada, the U.S. pretty dang close, but Sweden is playing very well together.
I will say that this is kind of like propping up Canada and the USA. This is
Sweden sends a message.
Yes, of course they do. But we're making a showdown for USA Canada, and we can't forget about the backdrop here with tariffs and everything. If more stuff happens while this is going on and it ends up Canada versus the USA, I don't even know what's going to happen.
Booing the anthems?
Well, they were booing Austin Matthews in Montreal last night.
There might be more to that, though. That's just Austin.
Of course, that's Leafs Habs things as well. But I saw it last night, and I was like, wow, they're not holding back. And these games are going to Boston next, which is even rowdier.
Wild.
So
how about this live chat powered by Park Power? Tracy says, talking about politicians that have entered and had an impact without the big money machine behind them. There's a lot. If you actually start getting into it,
give us a list.
There's one thing. So, and I want to read this comment first from Tracy, who says Sarah Hoffman, former deputy premier, former minister of health, a prominent NDP MLA, obviously in Alberta, says Sarah Hoffman, I believe, is an example of a politician that entered without a lot of family money. Did you know that Sarah Hoffman is actually launching a side career, a parallel career right now as a stand-up comedian?
What?
You heard it here first on Real Talk. You're going to be able to see Sarah Hoffman
pretty
on stage.
funny, though.
But I will say this, Tracy, that may be true at the first stages, and Sarah came up as, I think she was the chair of the Edmonton Public School Board, wasn't she? She was a trustee, then she was the chair, and then she was elected as an MLA, and obviously part of that Orange Crush. 2015, became a very important cabinet minister for Rachel Notley. But she did have the NDP machine when she got elected. But I'll take your point for sure. Absolutely. And how about this from Tara Lynn? I like this comment. Great to see you in the chat, Tara Lynn. She says, federal leaders need to be able to hold their own on an international stage, especially with the world the way it is and the world to come. She says, shoes, coats, watches, that doesn't mean diddly squat to me. That from Tara Lynn. Our live chat is powered every single day by our friends at Park Power, and I wanted to take a second to remind you that right now, especially with the temperatures where they're at right now, it's a great time to shop around for lower rates. You will not find, and I say this with absolute confidence, a lower fixed electricity rate in Alberta than you will at parkpower.ca at 6.69 cents per kilowatt hour. Remember this? We were talking about the UCP messaging on rates and what Albertans are paying right now, and then we saw an opposition critic, I think it was Racky Pancholi, said something like some Albertans are paying as low as 7 cents per kilowatt hour, and I just felt so much pride. I thought, well, you know what? There's actually real talkers paying even less than that, 6.69 cents per kilowatt hour only with Park Power. They offer electricity, natural gas, and internet across the province of Alberta with low rates, awesome service, and they share their profits with nonprofits. They share their profits with Alberta charities. Really, really remarkable stuff. I'm a customer of theirs. We're proud partners of theirs, and you can be as well. Compare rates today by visiting parkpower.ca. Also wanted to give a shout out to our friends at Athabasca University. Wherever you're at in your post-secondary journey, wherever you are in your career,
Athabasca University has a fit for you as Canada's open university, world-class accredited online degrees and courses designed so you can complete your education wherever and whenever it works for you. I want to take a quick second. I'll just talk about business today right here on the chat and of course our roundtable. Amazing movers and shakers. Athabasca University has an MBA program that I think more Canadians need to be talking about. You can learn more about the MBA and all of their other undergraduate and graduate programs and course offerings by taking 2 minutes to check out the AU Advantage today at athabascau.ca. Well, I wanted to give a shout out to all of you that are chiming in on the live chat. This is not slowing down at all, which leads me to believe that there's an appetite for us to dig into the stories that matter. A reminder before we get all fired up here that we care very deeply about what you think on the show and who you'd like to see on the show. You can send us your feedback anytime by leaving a comment on any of our social media channels, by leaving a comment on our YouTube episodes. And if you want to make sure we see it, an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. That's exactly what all of these are. These are emails, real emails from real talkers that have been all fired up over the past 7 days or so. And every single week as we wrap things up, courtesy of our friends at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park, we present the Flamethrower. How about this one from Markus, who writes in and says, never mind these tariffs, Jespo, you're talking about on Tesla. He says, what about 25% oil tax of anything in the pipeline to Trump's U.S.A? Let's keep the money. American prices are still going to go up. The fuel need will still be there. And then you take the offense into this fight. In a fight, you need strategy to go from defense to a winning offense. Markus says big oil was a primary financial backer for this liar, this insurrectionist winning the presidency, and a premier should be helping their entire country when one part of it is threatened or attacked. They should not relinquish to a bully's backers. It's time to step up or step off. That from Markus. How about this one from Brent, who says, hello, Canada. Are you angry with Donald Trump yet? Are you really pissed off? Well, you should have been mad since long before Trump. Let's go over what Trump was not responsible for, says Brent. He didn't stop export pipelines from being built. He didn't drive $500 billion of capital investments out of Canada. He didn't stall the growth of your GDP per capita for the past 10 years. He didn't cause doubling in debt. He didn't cause your housing costs to skyrocket. He didn't flood your country with thousands of migrants. He didn't make the Canadian government borrow $600 billion. He didn't legalize hard drugs. Who did that? Nobody did that, Brent. He says he didn't create your healthcare crisis. He didn't cause a third of Canadians to go hungry. He didn't turn your dollar into monopoly money. He didn't push DEI into your country. There it is. He didn't make Trudeau break his promise to Canadian veterans. He didn't denigrate and decimate the Canadian military. He didn't force Trudeau to slap on a carbon tax. He didn't have anything to do with how Justin treated Jody Wilson-Raybould, Vice Admiral Mark Norman, or General Fortin or others. No, the blame, says Brent, can be put squarely on Trudeau, Freeland, Carney, and the Liberals. He says not to mention the people who supported and continue to support them. That from Brent. What about this one from RH, who's checking in from Windsor, Ontario? What's up, RH? Says listening to Carney and Freeland and Skippy Puliev and Jagmeet Singh and Danielle Smith and Doug Ford and the members of Canada's business elite who are currently carrying on about Donald Trump's threats to apply blanket tariffs on Canadian imports, it's obvious that all of them expect us to believe that none of them has anything to do with the current situation that we're all in. Some of them have been involved in politics and business for decades. Well, what in the hell have they been doing that entire time? RH says, I tell you, my Canadian brothers and sisters, they've been pimping our country out, selling the resources on the cheap, signing atrociously lopsided trade deals like CUFTA and NAFTA and the USMCA, while allowing foreign ownership of key industries like oil and steel production to go unchecked. Are we now expected to leave it to them to fight off American threats of economic warfare with the goal of annexing Canada? This is a preposterous notion. RH says it's up to us to move forward from the performative, hollow posturing of the likes of Ford and Puliev, the soulless corporatism of Mark Carney, the disingenuous patronizing of Chrystia Freeland, and the debased ass-licking and self-promotion of Smith. Canadians, especially the working class and those in business sectors with real community ties, must take stock of our country's human, industrial, and natural resource wealth. It's time to reason together and plot a new course for an independent Canada. and leave out those who will sell our birthright out in a New York minute like a cheap trick and then call it a victory into the dustbin of history. That from RH in Windsor, auto capital of Canada, by the way. This one from Don, who says, Jespo, I listened to your show with wildlife conservation photographer John E. Marriott. That was our show most recent to this one, who provided that detailed and disheartening story about the death of that female cougar. And in looking at decisions made by Alberta's minister, Todd Lowen, over the past year, coupled with the decision to permit advanced coal mining exploration by the Australian-owned Northbacks Holding in water-stressed southwestern Alberta, I came to realize that the UCP cabinet ministers are actually disconnected from the natural world, permitting the open season trapping on lynx and wolverines and fishers and martens to determine in part population numbers, permitting the shooting of problem grizzly bears, consideration about eliminating the herd of wild horses in the province, and increasing the legal but highly questionable unethical hunting of cougars are all connected. In each case, there's a price tag on the heads of these mammals, preferably in American currency. Added to the rounding error royalties in the provincial budget, all I see are the death-filled eyes of the shark in the movie Jaws looking back at Albertans. Don says, I've talked to provincial biologists who cannot answer my questions. I've asked Rebecca Schultz, the minister, why she's not protecting the environment and its creatures. No response. In fact, actions she stated she would take to prevent owls from being baited northwest of Calgary has not been followed through. Ryan, we have a government who views all other living entities in the form of fiat currency, and it demonstrates a profound lack of respect for nature and life in other forms. In short, the natural world is dead to the current government, and I really hope Albertans put the UCP in their sights in the next election. That from Don, writing in from Chestermere. What about this one from Angie, who says, Jespo, I'm so glad you had John Marriott, the photographer, on the show. The public needs to know how predators are killing for trophies, and there's no reason for it in Alberta. Why kill a living creature for no reason other than you're willing to pay somebody else to allow you to do it with ease? Why? To make money. Our wildlife should be protected. They're more valuable alive as opposed to dead for 99% of the public. And then the province refuses repeated requests to willingly rehabilitate orphaned wildlife when we're the cause of them being left to fend for themselves. Angie says it's outrageous to me how senseless and cruel for no reason but to appease an outfitter and their American clients. It's grotesque. And Les brings us home with this one, for sale. Les has a classified ad. One well-used Alberta premier sold to the highest bidder. She may be and has been bought multiple times. Contact the UCP, that's You Can Pay Caucus, for group rates. That from Les, who sent us an email to talk@ryanjesperson.com. You can do the exact same thing and have your voice heard through this blowtorch every single Friday. Made possible by the DQs in Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, and Baseline Road. When you go grab a flamethrower, you let them know that Real Talk sent ya. We enjoy Family Day with our families. You enjoy it with yours, chosen family, blood family, or otherwise. And we'll be back Tuesday, ready to rock with Dr. Paul Parks. We'll see you then.